this time, I'd like to reconvene the regular board meeting. Deanne, will you please call the roll?
Hall, Solis,
Present.
Segura,
Here.
Pike,
Here.
Tarantino,
Here.
Janney,
Here.
Collier.
Here.
Okay, and now, Ms. Carbucci, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? The board met in closed session preceding this meeting to discuss the following issues. Number one, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. Number two, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. The board took no reportable action. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for September 9th, 2019, regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Solis,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Tarantino,
Yes.
Collier.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. At this time, we will have a message from our superintendent.
Thank you, President Pike. Welcome, everyone, to our board meeting. That means staff that are in the audience, students in the audience, families, and community. So welcome. I want to start again tonight with some recognitions and some accomplishments of students and staff across the district. First of all, I'd like to announce that the 3 students from San Ysidro High School were finalists in the Union Tribune Cartoon Caption Contest. So we had 2 students that were finalists for the week of August 23rd and 1 student that was the finalist for the week of August 30th. So congratulations to 11th graders Sochi Mancias, Jose Merida, and Ruben Hara. So, and just for your information, Ruben is an ELD 3 student last year, and he contributed to the caption contest and was a finalist. We also want to thank their teacher, Miriam Rachelson, for encouraging her students to submit their entries. Then we want to say congratulations to CSEA President Troy Johnson for being selected as California's Region 97 representative. Region 97 covers not only our district area, San Diego Unified, and the San Diego County Office of Education. And this position gives Mr. Johnson the association oversight of those chapters and makes him a leader at the state level. We're so proud and grateful for his leadership. Yeah. All right, Mr. Johnson. Also, San Ysidro High School French teacher Malin Ruffles helped San Ysidro High qualify as a Global Navigator High School, which means they have scholarships worth $30,000 to provide to students for financial support to study abroad in the summer. This past summer, Angela Lopez visited France, and I remember Ms. Ruffles was blogging about that, so we want to thank Ms. Ruffles, and many other students will have that same opportunity going forward. And also, for several years now, both Sweetwater High School, and Otay Ranch would annually host their own cross-country invitational meet, typically at Roar Park. Well, this year, Otay Ranch coach Julian Valdez and Sioux High coach Jaime Romero joined together and hosted the first annual, got their shirt here to prove it, first annual Ian Cumming and Tim Lathan 2019 cross-country invitational. So they combined the 2 invitationals into one huge invitational. Over 40 schools participated last Friday. There were over 2,000 athletes there. And both Coach Cumming and Coach Latham were there to be honored for giving so much to the community and to build our cross-country and track and field programs in our district. They've worked at other schools in the district as well, but 12 of our high schools were there, and I was able to stop by and catch the final race of the day. It was about 6 o'clock. Roar Park was packed. And so I just want to share with you some of the results. There was a boys varsity Mustang division, 5,000 meters, which is about 5 miles. And San Ysidro High, Hilltop High, Mar Vista High, and Castle Park High ranked 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, respectively, in that division. Runner Misael Felix came in 3rd overall. Miguel Tiznado, he was from San Ysidro High School. Miguel Tiznado from Hilltop was 7th. Jimmy Bylan from Hilltop was 8th, and there were 104 runners. So you can see they were 3rd, 7th, and 8th out of 104 runners. So congratulations to them. And then there was a, a boys varsity Red Devils division. So Otay Ranch are the Mustangs, and Sioux High are the Red Devils. And so they had a boys varsity Mustangs division and a boys varsity Red Devils division because there were 40 schools there. And in that division, Otay Ranch, Bonita High, Olympian, Sioux High, and Eastlake ranked 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, respectively. And Sioux High runner Jose Galvin came in 2nd place overall. Carter Stolmacher from Olympian was 7th overall. Dominic Garcia from Otay Ranch was 9th overall. And in that division, there were 110 runners. And then there was a girls varsity Mustang division, and the girls varsity runs 2.5 miles. Hilltop High overall won 1st place. Chula Vista High, Southwest, San Ysidro, Mar Vista ranked 3rd, 9th, 10th, and 11th, respectively. And Estela Bustillos from Castle Park came in 4th overall. Nicole Byland from Hilltop was 7th overall. Tamara Cornejo from Hilltop was 10th overall out of 94 runners. And then in the girls varsity Red Devils division, 2.5 miles, Eastlake High won 2nd place overall. Olympian, Otay Ranch, Bonita, and Sioux High ranked 7th, 8th, 9th, and 11th overall, respectively. Lauren Salt from Bonita came in 6th. Mackenzie Kelly from Otay Ranch from 11th. Rosanna Javier from Olympian was 12th. And Lake Merrifield and Amanda Chalberg, both from Eastlake, were 15th and 16th out of 107 runners. And there are a lot more results you can find from the fresh, the sophomore, and the JV. And if you read my message, I put a link, and you can go to all those results there. So congratulations to all the students and the coaches. Then on Saturday night, the 29th annual Salute to Teachers was held at the Balboa Park, or Balboa Theater downtown. And you remember that out of all of the Teachers of the Year selected by each of our high schools, we then select 5 Teachers of the Year that go on to the County Teacher of the Year competition. Those 5 teachers from Sweetwater are Julio Avasan from Olympian, Cheryl Bailey from Eastlake High, Brian Dougherty from Bonita Middle, Don Dumas from Bonita High, and Robert Monroe from Castle Park High. So all of that to say that at the county level, we're happy to report, if you haven't heard already, that Mr. Don Dumas from Bonita Vista High was selected as one of the 5 San Diego County Teachers of the Year. So let's give him a round of applause. Over the past 5 years, Sweetwater has been represented with one of the 5 top County Teachers of the Year, 4 out of the last 5 years. This is just one more indication of the quality of teachers and the quality of teaching that our students receive on a district-wide basis. We're very proud of that. We want to say congratulations to all of our Sweetwater Teachers of the Year. And then just to all teachers across the district, we thank you. Mr. Dumas talks about being that powerful role model and inspiring our students every single day. And so we want to thank you. We will be inviting our Sweetwater Teachers of the Year to a future board meeting to acknowledge them in person, typically after the break. And then tonight, Dr. Salkeld will provide the next financial update for the district. It is what we call the annual financial report on our unaudited actuals. So the unaudited actuals show how the reconciliation and the closing of our financial books for our revenues and our expenditures for the previous year. That's the 2018-19 year. As you recall, it was just about 1 year ago when we, that is our finance team, determined there were problems with our 17-18 unaudited actuals. And it was September of 2018 when we determined that we had a shortfall for the 2017-18 year of approximately $4 million. We notified the County Office of Education. They did not discover that problem. Our staff did. And as you also know, the deficit triggered a series of actions, including the requirement to revise our 2018-19 budget by last October 8th, as well as it called for a fiscal health risk analysis by FCMAT. So in order to balance the budget, we negotiated agreements with our labor partners. One of those agreements was an early retirement incentive and 2 furlough days. Once again, we want to thank our labor partners for their foresight and wisdom. San Diego County Office of Education eventually approved our 18-19 budget, revised budget, back in October of last year. And then by the time we got to first interim budget report in December, our deficit then increased from the $4 million to about $10.5 million for that year, for 18-19. And at that point in time, in December of 2018, we not only had a deficit for that year, but we had a deficit for future years as well. And as a result, the San Diego County Office of Education negatively certified our budget. So concurrently, and as a result of that fiscal health risk analysis report in December by FCMAT, SDCOE also requested another audit by FCMAT called the AB 139 Extraordinary Audit. So that report is still pending, and we do not know the exact projection completion date. However, our board, as they've said in the past a couple of times, we're committed to sharing the information once it's received. So that's what happened through December. And by the second interim report in March of 2019, we were able to decrease that deficit from December at $10 million to $5 million. And this is in direct correlation to offering the mid-year early retirement plan. And then when we adopted the budget in June of 2019 for the 19-20 year, the 18-19 deficit had decreased to $4.3 million. So we went from $10 million in December to $5 million in March to $4.3 million in June. That's an additional savings due to the CERP. That's the early retirement incentive. So that early retirement incentive not only enabled us to decrease our deficit, it also helped us to increase our cash flow so that we could pay down Fund 49, which is our Melrose Fund. You'll see in tonight's report that our numbers that Dr. Salkeld will share are pretty close to the numbers our finance team shared for the adopted budget in June. What this means is that all of the work that has been done over the past year is making a difference in the accuracy of our finances. And we want to thank you, Dr. Salkeld, for bringing the needed changes in our system to improve our results. And we still have work to be done. Thank you. But we are in a much better place today, thanks to your knowledge and the expertise and the leadership of you in our finance department. We want to thank you, Board, for that, giving me that opportunity to share that information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Janning. We'll now have a report from our Student Board Representative, Ethan Collier.
First off, there are a lot of students in the audience tonight, which I am in awe of because, student voice is really important, especially in this day and age, and I am beyond stoked and amazed to see a lot of these students here tonight. So give yourself a round of applause, students, for coming out tonight. This is amazing. I finally got to meet with the ASB presidents, and I am very happy to share something that I heard from Chula Vista High's ASB president. So really quickly, I wanted to talk about their SCPA program. As you know, Chula Vista High School is a very major visual and performing arts school, and their SCPA program is very diverse. They have all disciplines ranging from dance to folklorico to mariachi, and even print shop, which is a very rare discipline to see. And I'm in awe of Chula Vista High's SCPA program because it was also stated that their task force dance, which is their highest level, which is 11-12, is one of the top ranking, I believe, in the county, which is very amazing to hear. I wanted to take a moment to mention something that was stated by the ASB president over there, that she's also in the dance force, and she stated that recently, 2 years ago, the facilities within Chula Vista High School received air conditioning. Their dance room received air conditioning. Several other classrooms received air conditioning. However, recently, the air conditioning is non-functional. And apparently, their task force dance, their highest level of dance, is the last period of their day during the heat. And the students have been mentioning, and this is all from Chula Vista High's ASB president, says she in the class, she has been mentioning that They've had to open their garage doors, which they have in their studio, all the windows, and it is still not enough to keep the hot air out. And this is not only affecting the dance force, it is also affecting mariachi and print shop classes, for them having to move their classes to different sections of Chula Vista High School in order to receive air conditioning to avoid their students from, well, overheating. And I believe that's something that should be brought up with Dr. Aguirre, because I was also stated by the ASB president that the teacher has contacted, Ms. Valerie Ingram, the dance teacher has contacted, and students and parents have contacted with no response. So that's basically all I have to report from my meeting with the ASB presidents, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. The board members all received a copy of a DELAC report. Are there any questions for the DELAC president, Mrs. Chavrin? Come on up.
Good afternoon, Dr.
Good afternoon.
Kenning and board members. Well, you all received our DELAC report. Also, I have the report from our May 23rd, 2019 DELAC meeting, when we have the presentation from the one you have, but also Ms. Griselda present us the certificates to all the participants for the last year, and review the March and April reports for the ones submit for you. And also we have the presentation for academic coordinator from Southwestern College from the program during the summer. And the report, you have the copies from all the comments and all the ones we have during the meetings. And thank you also for your response to us, to all the comments already presented in our last meeting in August. And we're going also, if you permit me, I want to invite everyone here in the in the meeting, because right now we are in nominations to the new DELAC board. And in our next meeting on September 19, we're going to have nominations and oops, sorry, I forgot. Elections. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. I have, but we have 3 spots, for positions for community members, and that position is open, the 3. And for be a community member position, the requirement is to be part of the South Bay region and don't have any students in the Sweetwater district. But everyone wants to participate as a community member and during the DELAC school year 2019-2020. It's welcome to our next meeting, September 19, at the Sunny Southwest Parent Center, 9 to 11:30 in our meeting. Next meeting are the elections. And I don't know if you have any other questions. That's my report for our meeting.
Any other questions from the board? I just want to say that your report is excellent. Very, very defined. It's really good. I'm really impressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's part of all the members from all the schools. It's the participation from all of us as the parents, and the questions and participation we have during all year during the meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move up to Q4, which is a resolution in support. Thank you. It's to adopt resolution number 4638 in support of the Youth Climate Action.
Yes, I will call the speakers.
Okay?
Mikata King.
Go ahead.
Good evening, trustees of the council, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. My name is Mikata King, and I am a 9th grader at Bonita Vista High, and I am in full support of this resolution. It is up to my generation to save the planet, and I'm not seeing enough being done about it. By passing this resolution, it allows the spread of awareness of this global climate crisis and gives my friends and I hope for future generations. My own sister does not want to have kids because she is in fear of the world that they will grow up in. And we want change, and it starts here right now with this resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Nicolas Tino.
Hello, good evening. My name is Nicolas Tino. I attend Bonita Vista High School, and I would like to be able to thank the Sweetwater Union School District for supporting youth action. I believe that this will encourage the youth to involve themselves in other world issues. Please vote yes on the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diego Nava.
Here, Sweetwater School District Board members, and on behalf of myself and other fellow students attending Bonita Vista High School, I'm here to support not only the proposed climate change resolution, which I have been studying in school, but to also encourage you to consider passing any potential resolutions of this degree in the future. I believe that the district board should support students who wish to take action on climate change to ensure a future not only for ourselves, but for future generations and various species all over the world. Of course, we all know what causes climate change: carbon emissions, pollution, destruction of natural habitats, but now it's time that we do something about it, and I believe this walkout is only the beginning, and in the future we should have, I implore you to pass any other events such as this walkout and contribute in creating a better future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Moreno.
Good evening, Sweetwater School Board and Superintendent Dr. Janney. I'm writing this and believe you should support students in our district by passing this resolution for youth climate change. The California PTA has recognized climate change as an issue primarily concerning the youth. One reason you should vote in favor is because our youth deserves to participate in helping climate change if they truly care about this resolution. Therefore, I encourage you to vote in favor of this resolution for youth climate change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lilly Gibson.
Good evening, Sweetwater School Board members and Dr. Janney. My name is Lilly Gibson, and I'm a Global Scholar student attending Bonita High School. I'm here on behalf of the youth supporting the resolution of youth climate action. With this, students should be able to have a future without worrying about the concerning global issues. If we pass this resolution, we would be making the change happen and continue to influence others to follow the pursuits. In addition, I have some of my fellow Global Scholar classmates' emails that were sent to the board earlier this afternoon that I would like to present to the board.
Natalie Navarro.
Good evening, Sweetwater School Board members and Superintendent Dr. Janney. I'm a Global Scholar from Bonita Vista High School, and I'm attending and speaking out for the resolution of the support for young youth climate action. The support is also backed by my classmates. We as a class have learned that the Sweetwater District does support the resolution, calling it leadership in our students. The youth greatly supports the Green New Deal. As a generation, we would love to have a better and cleaner future. Some of us would also love to have children that could potentially grow up and continue to live a cleaner and healthier life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kayla Bowman.
Good evening, Sweetwater School Board and Superintendent Dr. Janney. Hi, my name is Kayla Bowman, and I am in favor of this resolution that states that SUHSD administration be directed to support that students who decide to take an interest in climate change make an impact to walk out September 20th. What us students do for our future will impact us for the better, and if we can't make a difference, we won't have the courage to do so in the future and end up not caring as much for our community. And this resolution passing, my fellow classmates and I will make a difference on behalf of our planet. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
Okay, no further speakers. Any comments from the board?
Sure. I would like to thank the students for coming out and speaking in support of this. And also thank you for the emails that you sent. And I had opportunity to read them all this morning. They were really well done. And I think this is very important. It's a good first step. And I know the district has done things in the last few years, at least since we've been around. And in electrification, we put some electric car charging stations around. We have solar arrays. And I think, as you know, electrification lessens the carbon footprint because of the renewable energy that a lot of renewable energy that's produced during the day. 45% of SDG&E's power is generated by renewable energies during the day. So I really appreciate your all the effort you put into this, and I hope it doesn't end here. And I really support. I speak in strong support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second?
Collier,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Students, thank you very much. If you want to go home and leave right now and study, you're more than welcome to. We'll hold off. I understand it's pretty rigorous over there.
Nice job, you guys. I have to check what that is first.
Okay. We will now conduct a public hearing and adopt resolution number 4635, assurance of sufficient availability of textbooks and/or instructional materials, and assure that the core curriculum is aligned to the state content standards. I will now open the public hearings. Are there any speakers?
Yes, Kathleen Cheers.
I reviewed the attachment to the agenda item and I have a few questions. I note there is no identification as to the date the textbooks indicated were first printed and first distributed. I raise this point based on information from parents and teachers. Many of our textbooks are outdated, causing students, parents to purchase up-to-date textbooks out of their own pocket, for example, AP courses. I believe Eastlake High School students and parents spoke on this. Additionally, some of the textbooks are being held together by masking tape. You can indicate all the textbooks in the world, but if they are out of date or falling apart, what benefit is it for our students or our educators in this ever-changing world? As a side note, we were told several years ago the iPads and Lenovo's were the answer. Modern technology replacing heavy textbooks. Additionally, the ability to update courses as needed. B. Our seniors do not have the same access to technology as their younger peers are being shackled with taped up, out-of-date books. And here they are getting ready to go into college, many of them. In my opinion, the data presented here is less than complete and is basically just checking off an item. Whose responsibility is it to look at the quality of these textbooks? When is the last time it was done? Additionally, at the last board meeting, I spoke about fundamentals, special ed, and the lack of textbooks. In reviewing the list, and I'm not an expert, I looked at the word fundamentals, and then I called a resource I have and said, and they were like, Mom, dummy, that doesn't mean special ed, fundamentals. So I think that this needs to be reviewed, and I would caution the board in passing this without the information that I've just mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
Okay. Any comments?
You need to close the hearing,
Close the
please.
hearing.
Okay, I will now close the public hearing. Now can we take comments? Mr. Tarantino.
Thank you, President Pike. I had some questions about D1. First of all, I was looking at the content of the books and the number of books and the number that we have on hand, the number that are being used, and then the number of excess. And if you look at page 3 of that, just as an example, but it's throughout the whole report. The numbers don't add up in a lot of areas. For example, the number of excess far exceed the number of books in use and the number of books being used. And I had the sheet. I don't have it in front of me now, but there was it was under the ebooks. If you could scroll down, I think there's some ebooks.
Might be on the middle school list.
It is on the middle school list.
Oh, you're on the high school list.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. So if you look at the number of textbooks,
Page 3.
page 3. Where is it? Okay, the numbers don't seem to add up, and I don't have the sheet in front of me, but the numbers don't seem to add up in terms of if you subtract the number of individual textbooks in use from the number of students enrolled, it doesn't always add up. And maybe, yes, okay, so if you look at general science, bilingual, we have 495 books, we have 306 students enrolled, and we have 333 excess. How does that work? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes. Dr. Alvarez, can you help us on this?
Maybe I'm misinterpreting the word excess.
Good evening. So this is the first time that we're running this list by using a merged spreadsheet, and so that's some of the errors that you find. What we usually do is we do these by hand. Sites collect the information. The information is then individually inputted by hand. So this time there was a merge, and with the merge some of the numbers came off. We do have the backup data for each individual school site that demonstrates that we have the number of students enrolled, the number of ebooks or textbooks in general that are available, and the excess. And so when we look at that information, we are showing, and ultimately we're showing that we have sufficient books, textbooks for every student enrolled in a particular course. But this alignment has to do with the way that the merge of the documents occurred. But we do have the backup documents for each individual school available.
Okay. And to Mrs. Cheers' point, is there any provision in the Williams Act that says the textbooks need to be in a certain condition or a publication date, or because this also refers to supplemental materials? And my understanding is as long as there's supplemental materials that reinforce what's in the textbooks, even though they may be out of date, that we're in compliance. Is that pretty much correct?
So we do
not?
use a lot of supplemental resources. We also use what's called online or online educational resources, which we use as supplement, which provides more up-to-date information. The way that, for example, in government or in social science, in science, once a textbook is published, it's pretty much already out of date. And with the implementation of the next generation science standards, we're still looking at textbook adoptions. Many districts across the county and across the state have not ordered new textbooks because they're still looking at what they're going to pilot. They're looking at whether they're going to maintain discrete courses or do integrated science. And so a lot of those elements we need to factor in. Over the last, I've got some data, over the last several years we have done and updated textbooks. The major adoptions that we have done have been for some of our AP courses. All of our ELD curriculum has been updated. All of our world language curriculum has been updated. And in 2014, all of our math courses were updated. So we do have a set calendar and projected timeline for our science, our social science, and our regular English courses.
And one more question, President Pike. And those revision adoption cycles are not up to district discretion. They're up to the state, if I'm not
So for high
mistaken.
schools, there is no mandatory adoption. When you look at elementary up to K-8, 8th grade, there are some recommended adoption, but for high school in particular, there are no recommended adoptions or mandatory adoptions. We actually, as school districts, go out and seek vendors based on our needs.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. That's all, President Pike.
Any other questions or concerns? If not, we'll vote on this. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Collier?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. This is the point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes each to do so. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action on or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but will refer the matter to the superintendent's office for review and report. Speakers shall refrain from using profanity and shall conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Thank you for your cooperation.
Kathleen Cheers?
For 11 years, I have had a second row seat to students speaking on behalf of themselves and their peers, parents speaking on behalf of their child, Mellow residents speaking on behalf of Mellow Monies, teachers speaking on behalf of their students' need for quality education and against mistreatment, other employees speaking of their concerns, community residents speaking out against corruption, dysfunction, and taxpayer money waste. But without a doubt, the last meeting was the one meeting which brought all entities together. Students, several parents, 3 brave teachers, the SEA president, and the community. While I had no doubt before the meeting our SPED students' needs were not being met, and our teachers, both Gen and SPED, and psychologists are working under abhorrent conditions, after leaving that evening, and since then, due to the many calls and texts I've received, it is clear this is shaping up to be Sweetwater's worst controversy yet. Special ed is in chaos. Since the meeting, some of those who spoke out are suddenly gaining much attention. Calls are being returned. Their students receiving check-ins, changes their conditions being met. There has even been a statement, while it appears there are many complaints, we're also receiving many compliments. Nothing could be further from the truth. To those parents who stayed late into the night, I say thank you. To those teachers whose credibility is beyond reproach, I say thank you. To the union president who shared frustration and the expectation of reading a presentation and preparing a response during a board meeting, I say thank you. To all employees, I say more voices are needed. If not at this podium, please contact a trustee. How many SPED teachers have read the Special Education Performance Indicator Review, otherwise known as the PIR? If you have not, you must. Upon reading it, you will ask, surely this isn't Sweetwater's report, as this report includes false indicators. I would like to make it clear, while some were attempting to downplay the situation, let me be clear. It is worse than you think if possible. Case in point, President Pike. Several of your schools are heavily negatively impacted. The SPED director has failed to build confidence, her alleged expertise being questioned by parents and teachers alike. She is crisis-driven. I have spent the better part of the past 2 weeks challenging, analyzing myself to be part of the solution. Truth is, it is hard to respect someone who has, on 3 different occasions, lied to my face over something as simple as acknowledging the Sweetwater parents who sought Ms. Reyes' help. No one in this room is here to please me, but by God, you will answer to me when the education of our most vulnerable students are at stake, and the very integrity of the entire department is on the line. Trustees, students, parents, and teachers are looking to you for action. Neither they nor our students have time to, as the director was quoted saying, let it play itself out. In closing, I would like to thank Ms. Hall for reaching out to me and meeting with me and reviewing the information I shared with her. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jada Alvarez.
If I recited a poem to this panel, every individual would likely render a different interpretation of the text. Why shouldn't we assume the same of our students? Good evening. My name is Jada Alvarez, and I'm a senior at Otay Ranch High School. Last year, I participated in my school's AP Research course, in which I studied the merit of subjective reader response criticism in English language arts assessments. Today, I come before you to promote this literary theory in an effort to improve student engagement to material and development of critical thinking skills. In brief terms, literary theories and criticisms are the lenses through which we view literature. The theory most prevalent in secondary settings is new criticism, which states that meaning exists within the text. Reader response theories, on the other hand, state that readings confer meaning onto text. Subjective reader response criticism specifically emphasizes the need of intersubjective negotiation in order to arrive at meaning. Basically, people need to talk to each other to construct and agree upon interpretations. I believe that the integration of this literary lens would satisfy and exceed the 6 curriculum and instruction standards of the Sweetwater Union High School District. State and federal Common Core standards would not be obstructed by the application of this theory, as the 5 elements of meaning making, effective expression, foundational skills, content knowledge, and language development would still be fulfilled. Engagement would increase among students, as they would be given the opportunity to hold text as a mirror to themselves and their contemporary communities, without worry of reaching the wrong interpretations. Additionally, this would remedy some accessibility issues. Although not every student has access to SAT prep classes, internet, and even functional textbooks, they still have the capacity to introspect. In general, most students either exceed or struggle in either the listening and or speaking skills described in ELA framework. Through heightened discourse, these skills and deficits would both be strengthened. In terms of developing agreed-upon methods to gauge student mastery, it may be more difficultly. Ultimately, I think it should be a goal to reform ELA assessments, but I understand that this is not something that can happen overnight, nor with only one district alone. However, change has to start somewhere, and that's here. This panel of decision makers are the ones that have the most power in dictating what flies and what doesn't in classrooms. I implore you to collaborate with me and contact me as listed in the sheets I handed out in developing measures of integrating subjective reader response criticism into classrooms. Together, we can adopt curriculum created by students, led by students, and made for students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria Avila. Maria Avila.
Buenas tardes. Soy madre de la High School San Isidro.
Good evening. I'm a mother from San Isidro High School.
Vengo a lo mismo, los camiones.
I come here for the same thing, the school buses.
Ya tenía tiempo, no podía venir, pero me mandaron un email donde me desglosan lo mismo que usted acaba de decir ahorita.
It's been a long time that I wasn't able to come, but I received an email where they give me the same information that you just shared.
Donde usted agarró de la caja chica para completar sus 12 millones.
Where you took money to complete the 12 million.
Ojalá y que de esos 12 millones que usted agarró de la caja chica hubiera desviado los $500,000 que se necesitan para los alumnos.
I hope that those 12 million that you took from those fundings, que esos 12 millones los hubiera.
De ahí hubiera agarrado los 500,000.
Oh, from those 12 millions, you should have took the 500,000
que se necesitan para los
that we
camiones de los
need
alumnos.
for the buses for the students.
Estoy segura que fue para los sueldos de todos ustedes que son excesivos.
I'm sure those fundings were used for the salaries, your excessive salaries.
Como no dan respuesta, yo nada más supongo. Ojalá y pudieran hablar.
Because you don't give any response, I hope you can speak.
Porque solamente vengo y expongo lo que yo pienso y lo que me ponen en un email.
Because I'm here just to express what I think and the information that I receive through the email.
Usted, señor Segura, acaba de decir que usted mira todos los mails, les dijo a los estudiantes. Nosotros como padres de familia estamos cansados de mandar y nunca he recibido una contestación de parte de usted ni de usted, señora Jenny.
Mr. Segura, you say that you receive all emails and you read all students' emails. We have sent countless emails to you and to Dr. Jenny, and we haven't received any response from either one of you.
De esos 30 millones que hasta ahorita sé, porque no sé cuánto, ¿verdad?, que tiene el faltante que usted revuelve, pide prestado, agarra de la caja chica, le pide prestado al gobierno.
Okay, from those 30 millions that you say, because you make a mess, you take money from here, you take it there, and then you borrow from here, you pay there.
La realidad es que los muchachos siguen caminando. ¿A usted, joven estudiante?
The reality is the students, they're still walking.
¿A usted, joven estudiante?
To you, young student,
que está escribiendo y no tiene la decencia de poner atención a lo que estoy hablando.
that you are writing and you don't have the decency to pay attention to what I'm talking,
Que su compañero le tuvo que tocar el hombro, eso es una falta de respeto.
that your person next to you had to touch your on the elbow on the shoulder for you to look at me. That's disrespectful.
Le pido por favor que sea empático con los alumnos, vaya y se ponga una mochila como la de ellos, camine 3.5 de arriba y luego regrésese.
I ask you to have some empathy for your schoolmates. Put your backpack and walk 3.5 miles up the hill and another 3.5 miles down the hill.
Y no lo pido que lo haga todo un año, nada más un día. Con estas calores que está haciendo, solamente un día.
And I'm not asking you to do this through the whole year, just one time, especially now with this hot weather.
Respecto a lo de usted, señor Tarantino, de los libros,
Respect to you, Mr. Tarantino, about the books.
no se preocupe por lo que le diga la señora Álvarez.
Don't worry about Ms. Alvarez tells you.
Ya tenemos una nueva biblioteca en San Isidro, así como usted utilizó de pantalla la subida que se arregló, que no salió de su bolsa para quitar los camiones. Agárrese también de la biblioteca para que ya no provee más libros a los muchachos de San Isidro.
We have a new library in San Isidro, the same way that you were showing off on the students. Now you can show off on the library in San Isidro.
Le agradezco que usted haya tomado en cuenta los libros y que ella la agarró mal parada porque se salió, la tambaleó con las dos preguntas que le hizo.
I'm glad that you asked her those two questions, but you caught her off guard and she was shaky when she was giving you those answers.
Pero de ahí agárrese, superintendente. Ya tenemos una nueva librería, así que no se preocupe para que provee libros a la high de San Isidro, ¿ok?
Okay, so you don't have to worry about books because San Isidro, we already have a library, you superintendent, so now maybe you can provide the transportation.
Emma Romero.
no vine preparada. Sí, ay, es que me piden respeto y eso, y pues me da risa, la verdad.
You asked for respect, and I just find it funny.
Pues sí, porque respeto a quien merece respeto. Y pues para pedir respeto, primero respeten, porque nos tratan con una falta de respeto horrible ustedes.
Respect to who earns respect, and you treat us with a lot of disrespect.
Y de educación ni hablamos, porque ustedes con doctorado y toda la cosa no pueden ni contestar unos simples emails que les mandan estos padres tan ignorantes que tienen enfrente.
And with all your education, all your PhDs, you're not able to even answer a few emails from these ignorant parents that you have here.
Y se le quedan a uno viendo con su carita así de inocentes, como que no rompen un plato, pero...
And you stare at us with those innocent faces like you won't do anything to hurt anyone, but the reality is different.
Escuché una palabra que decía revolución.
I heard a word that was revolution.
Me encantaría que hubiera una revolución de principios, de valores, de empatía hacia los desprotegidos.
I would love it if there were a revolution of values, principles, of empathy towards those that have less.
Porque aquí en el distrito se acostumbra mucho a andar, ¿cómo se dice? Tomando de aquí, de allá y quedando bien con lo ajeno.
Because here in the district, it's very common to take from here and there and looking good with other people's money.
Porque eso es lo que son ustedes. La mesa directiva son trusted y creo que al traducirlo es fideicomisarios o algo así. Bueno, es una figura jurídica en donde ustedes les dan el dinero para los estudiantes, no para sus salarios y pensiones.
So you're trustees, and as I translate the word, trustee is someone that is given something in trust, not for their own benefit, but for the benefit of the students.
Ay, es que no vine preparada hoy, la verdad. Escuché también algo del DELA y todo eso de los aprendices de inglés y esas cosas. Y hay muchas personas que a los niños los tienen reclasificados.
I really didn't come prepared, but I heard a lot of things about DELAC and all these things, and there are many people that, for them, children...
Porque han de saber algo. En mi humilde opinión, si una maestra reprueba a la mayoría de los estudiantes, pues que yo creo que el problema no está en los estudiantes, tal vez es en la maestra.
And I just want to say something in my humble opinion. If a teacher fails a lot of students, I don't think the problem are the students. I think the problem is the teacher.
Y si un programa tiene a tantos niños que no han sido reclasificados por 5 o 6 años, tal vez el problema no es que sean niños que necesiten educación especial, tal vez lo que necesitan educación especial son los que hacen los programas que no sirven para nada.
And if a program has so many students that haven't been reclassified, maybe it's not that the students need special education or they have special needs. Maybe the people that are writing up the programs are the ones that have special needs.
Me gustó mucho ver a los estudiantes que vinieron aquí a hablar del cambio climático y todo eso. Me encantaría que los estudiantes de San Isidro también vinieran, se sacaran los zapatos y les enseñaran las ampollas que tienen por tanto caminar.
I like the fact that students came here talking about climate change, and I would love it if the San Isidro students came here and took off their shoes and showed you their blisters that they get from all the walking.
O que les traigan sus camisas sudadas, o los zapatos desgastados, o los pantalones casi rotos de en medio de las piernas, porque se desgastan, se rompen por tanto caminar, señores. Yo sé que ustedes no caminan, nomás están ahí sentaditos. Por eso no lo saben, pero saben de tanto caminar, se rompen los pantalones.
And I wish they could show you their sweaty T-shirts and their worn shoes and their ripped pants, because you sit there and you don't walk, but pants get ripped from walking. That happens. That's the reality.
Me preguntaron que si yo había entrado a su sorteo de la vergüenza de 110 asientos de los autobuses escolares. Dije que no.
I was asked if I was in the running for those 110 seats that you are offering for the buses, and I said no.
No, dije que no porque habemos personas que tenemos dignidad y no nos conformamos con sus migajas.
I said no because there are people like me that have a little dignity, and we're not happy with just the crumbs that you give us.
Ahora no me preocupa el tiempo. También tengo una molestia. Ya lo siento personal, Ya siento que es una discriminación personal. Si quieren ahorrar dinero, ¿saben qué? Pues recorten al vocero de aquí de Sweetwater, porque ya nos tenemos que enterar por las noticias por un grupo de padres de familia.
And also, if you want to save money, you should cut the position of the spokesperson for the district, because I found out about things from a group of parents, not from the news.
No tienen los pantalones para mandarlo directamente y decir las cosas. Ahora se escudan atrás de los padres. Eso es discriminación y me estoy sintiendo discriminada directa y personalmente.
I feel discriminated against because you guys don't have the gumption to have your spokesman say things directly to the media. We have to find out through a group of parents. I'm feeling very discriminated.
Okay, time to wrap up.
Muchas gracias por su tiempo. Y espero que ahora sí soy educada, ¿verdad? Cosa que ustedes no tienen educación ni respeto por nosotros. Muchas gracias.
Thank you for your time, and I hope I was respectful, something that you are not to us. You have no respect for us. Thank you.
Julie Walker.
Board President Pike, members of the board, Superintendent Janney, I am actually channeling Chris Elam tonight. Chris is feeling under the weather and couldn't come and make her comments, and she still wanted to be here in spirit, so her spirit is here through me. Board members, I continue to be concerned about the lack of a plan to address the seniors' lack of laptops. Yes, we now will have 3,000 being distributed in the next month. What about the remaining 3,000 students who don't have them? Is there any goal other than ASAP? If we are truly in a financial crisis, as it has been claimed as a reason for why students cannot get laptops, have to pay more for AP exams, and lost busting in San Ysidro, why are we spending gross amounts of money on substitutes district-wide for all the pull-out days we've had over the last 2 weeks? In addition, due to the lack of planning on the part of the district, many teachers district-wide have been forced to give up their prep periods to cover the classes for teachers who are out because of a lack of substitutes. Class coverage is more expensive for the district than paying a substitute. Teachers continue to get mixed messages regarding connecting with students. We are told we can't see comments in Infinite Campus because we only need to know about their academic information for our classes. Yet we are trained in restorative practices and are being told that social emotional learning strategies are our focus this year. We are constantly reminded about the importance of building relationships in the classroom, yet this year, for the first time in decades, we are being given zero information regarding our students and their backgrounds. So those end Chris's comments. I had a site visit today at Granger, and kind of off the top of my head, these are some of the concerns. Special education also is a big concern. And we still need to work on how are we going to get services to our students. There are many classes where we've pushed in students with no services, with no help, not enough instructional aids, not enough time by special ed teachers to be able to go in and collaborate or co-teach with our teachers, primarily in our VAPA and in our science and social studies classes. That concern keeps on coming back time and time again at all the sites I've visited. So I hope that you take some time, and if your work schedule or your personal schedule allows, to go talk to some of those teachers. And I invite each of you, if you would like me to give you some names to come along with you, I am available, and you can contact me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cesar Fernandez.
Cesar Fernandez, Vice President of SEA. Tough to follow up a Chris Elam
invitation, but here I go. President Pike, Superintendent Janney, thank you for indulging me on just a few concerns tonight. After a very extensive presentation on special education, we had some very revealing comments and questions, and I just wanted to thank the parents and teachers that came out to support and speak to you guys and let you know exactly what special education feels like at the school sites. I want to thank our teachers from Bonita Vista High and Hilltop High School especially for making their voices heard, the parents that came out and talked. I want to thank you, Vice President Tarantino, because you seem very well informed on what's happening in special education, and I appreciate your questions. I now ask you all to take it a step further, and I invite you here and now to come out to the sites and see exactly what special education looks like in the classrooms. Not just the special ed classrooms, but the gen ed classrooms. See what those look like too. The things that work, the things that aren't working, all equally important. So I invite you here and now, and SEA will also reach out to you, formally invite you. Switching gears, I see that we have a communications item that's on the agenda that wasn't complete at the time that we had the review. We're hiring a company to come in and teach us how to communicate with the public. This company I see historically has been hired when there's been tough times between labor relations and the district. Not sure if that's going to happen, not sure why we need it. Often I hear the question with these kinds of items, why are we doing this? Why are we paying for this if we have this in-house? Okay, so I hope there's some questions from the board members about that item. So at any rate, last thing, Infor is on here again. I thought Infor was done. I thought we passed it. We heard the narrative that Infor is problematic. And from our sources at the county, indeed it is. We heard that all schools are getting Infor for free. Indeed, they are. Forgive me, but up until the time when I was about 10 or 11, I grew up in very meager conditions. And I learned that, you know, when you're poor, you take the free stuff. Okay, even if it's problematic, you take the free stuff and see where you're at a couple of years from now. Maybe you can afford the good stuff. So I see Infor is on here again. The district was transparent enough to say it's going to cost us a little bit more money, 2%. I also hope that there are some questions about that. I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
Okay. Clerk of the board, will you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, I have one change on board agenda item F5, page 5. The legal name of the consultant should read Eduardo Gutierrez, not Eddie Gutierrez. We just wanted that read into the record. The following items have been pulled. Item F3 by Mr. Tarantino and staff. Item F4 by Mr. Tarantino. Item F6 by Mr. Tarantino and staff. Item F8 by the public. Item H2 by Mr. Tarantino. Item H6 by Mr. Tarantino and the public. Item K1 by Mr. Tarantino. Item K2 by the public. Item K3 by staff. Item M4 by Mr. Tarantino. And item N4 by the public.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Collier? Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, let's start with F3.
Board communication?
Mr. Pike, if that's okay, I'll start it off.
Yes, go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, no problem. So I just wanted to thank Dr. Aguirre and the staff for having the meeting at Sweetwater regarding the field and the situation that has occurred, and the solution will be coming soon. I know I can't say too much about that. So, and I also want to thank the City of National City, the mayor and the staff, the Diablos Football Club, and of course our staff for the use of El Toyon Park for the novice games. So thank you for allowing us to use that field. And that's it. Cool. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Segura.
Sure. Just like to invite everybody, and we could use volunteers for the 4th annual solar sprint being held at Eastlake Middle School this coming Saturday. The races started, or I started at 9, 11, I think the finals around 1. So it'll be a good time, and there's 304 kids signed up so far. And I'd like to thank Baker Solar Energy for buying the kits, and IBW 569 NICA and Electrical Training Center for buying all the t-shirts. So it'll be a good time. I look forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you. Mr. Tarantino.
Yes, I'd like to begin by thanking Nancy Nieto and the entire College and Career Readiness / VAPA department for the college fair that was held last week at Montgomery High School. I've had the privilege of going to about 3 of those, and I have to say that this one was probably the most impressive that I've seen. There were schools from the East Coast, from the West Coast, from California, from Hawaii, and not only that, but there were a lot of technical schools that were there as well, and it was very well attended. And again, those things don't just happen. It takes a lot of planning and contact and recontact and all of that goes into making these events a success. And again, thanks to everyone who had a hand in it. I'd like to extend my thanks to Dr. Fulcher as well as Sonia Picos, Molly Ravenscroft, and Laura McClellan for inviting Mr. Solis and myself to the expulsion panel training. I have to admit, I've been a critic of the process, and being able to see the training that goes into the individuals who volunteer their time to be on this panel, I am convinced that it's a fair process, it's an equitable process, and that the values of the district and the board are imparted in how decisions are made in terms of what should be carried out in terms of the expulsion hearings that take place. So it changed me to a believer, and again, I thank everyone for the invitation to attend. And last of all, I'd like to officially thank the National School District for sponsoring the joint school boards meeting that was held right after our last board meeting. And I have to say, I was glad that Coronado was part of the group. I know that we've had a number of these since we've taken office on the board, and Coronado's not been involved. So I'm glad that they made the decision to attend, and it was interesting to hear their point of view, and that they're dealing with the same kinds of issues that we're dealing with. They seem to be universal in terms of what school districts are going through in the state of California. So with that, I would respectfully request that Dr. Janney and the leadership team and Mr. Pike, if you would consider sending a thank you letter to the superintendent and President Alma Sarmiento for graciously hosting the meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Tarantino. And it looks like Dr. Janney is going to be handling that. Okay, let's move on to...
One more thing from me.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a recommendation to Dr. Janney and her leadership team that we recognize all the students that came out today from Bonita Vista High School for their speaking about the resolution on climate change.
Okay. She's got that too.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's move on to F4.
Pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Yes, I read in the newspaper that, again, there's a Senate Bill 223 sponsored by Senator Hill, which is working its way through the legislature to allow boards of education to vote on whether parents can administer medical marijuana to their children during school hours on campus. It passed the Assembly on the 27th of August, and I was just wondering if Mr. Solis, if we've received any legislative alerts or anything from our CSBA representatives and the legislative advocates that we're part of.
We have not.
Okay. I know that in some districts, I don't know about our district, but I know in some districts, parents are allowed to administer, and this is not the smoking medical marijuana, it's the edible medical marijuana, that the parents have to take their kids off campus to administer the medical marijuana, and then they can bring them back on campus. You can't do it on campus. This would change that and would allow parents to come to school and administer that. And I was just wondering what our group is thinking about that. So it did pass the Assembly on August 27th, so it's working its way through.
Yeah.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Okay. We need to vote for this?
No.
No. Okay. Let's move on to F6.
Yes. This was pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
We created an ad hoc committee last year, and I think it's served us well. I absolutely do. I think that both Mr. Solis and Ms. Hall have been an asset in terms of championing what our board is thinking about in terms of legislation and priorities, and so I'm totally in favor of continuing this, but well, I'll make a motion. How's that? Unless anyone else wants to speak.
I'll second that.
Well,
You might want to hear the motion first.
yeah. So I have a two-part motion. First part is to with Mr. Solis and Ms. Hall's permission to reappoint them to our ad hoc committee, and then the second part of my motion would be to have our board consider making this a standing committee, because I do think that it's not going to the legislative issues are not going to go away, and I think that to have this on a firm basis and not have to do it every year, year to year, would serve us well. So that we would consider making it a standing committee of the board when we have our reorganization meeting in December.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Do you still want a second, Mr. Segura?
I'll second both of them, unless it's just one.
It's two parts.
Collier?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. Let's go to F8.
I have one speaker, Kathleen Cheers.
Okay.
It was the community's understanding all departments would be biting the bullet in assisting with our deficit. Yet here we have $30,000 being spent out of the general fund to assist train our communications department on how to communicate. Help me understand this. We are in need of aides, in need of teachers, in need of books, in need of Lenovo's, in need of supplies, in need of just about everything. And here we are looking at $30,000 for training for PR. You need to charge the highly paid qualified director of communications to conduct the training. This is a waste of taxpayers' dollars in a time when we simply cannot afford it. PR is not what this community needs or wants. Truth, transparency is what we expect. Whatever happened to simply telling it like it is? It really isn't hard. I do it every other week.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
Any comments?
Sure. I didn't pull it, but I know Mr. Tarantino had. But yeah, my comment was just, and I've set it up here that the communication department does need help. But I would definitely feel that with our current financial situation, I don't think spending $30,000 on this is appropriate right now. You know, but like I've said before, I know they need help, but I just think the timing's bad unless I'm missing something that's in this contract.
Any other comments?
Well, I like the point that it's concentrating on a strategic plan, and I don't know that that we have a strategic plan for communications, and I know that strategic plans are very important because they provide a roadmap for anywhere from 3 to 5 years out in the future, and I think that's something that usually is not done in-house because there are individuals who specialize in strategic plan implementation and stuff, and so I would support this on the basis that I think we do need a strategic plan, and again, strategic plans are best created with an outside facilitator.
Thank you. Mr. Rubio, do you want to come up here and talk to us a little bit about this?
Good evening, President Pike, Vice President Tarantino, trustees, and Dr. Janney. I'm channeling my inner Frank Tarantino tonight, in case you haven't noticed that, with my sport coat. Had to say it. So we've asked this group to come forward. Communication Resources for Schools has been an organization that's been around for quite some time in terms of working with both at the local level here in California, but also nationally. Their representatives have served as members of the National School Public Relations Association board over the last several years, and they have their finger on the pulse of what school communications is. Over the last 11 years that I've been on this team here at the Grants Communications team, we've changed significantly, and by changed I mean changed everywhere from in terms of our staffing to our focus. When I first came on board, we were actually a member of a director, 3 program managers, 2 administrative staff, a full-time videographer, photographer, and a web developer who was housed in IT but has since come over to our department. We are now a staff of 1 program manager and a director and 1 admin staff, and we've changed significantly. In 2009, a couple months after I came to this district, I started the district's Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts. And I remember at the time my director saying, "What is this social media thing, and what is it? How is it going to help us?" And so, over the last 10 years, social media, mainstream media, has changed significantly. And so I think one of the things that we'd really like to take a look back is take a step back and just take a look at where are we going in terms of our approach at communications as not just a department but as a district. And I think this is really an opportunity for us to take that step back and take a look and create a plan that puts us all, in a way that goes forward together and not really in piecemeal as we've done it over the years. I've done several trainings for my staff internally. We've done a lot of sessions internally. But again, we're a department who's always, really tried to do things as cost effectively as possible. In this case, I just think it is time that we take that step back, and I think this is the right organization to do that for us.
Okay. It says here expenditures of up to $30,000.
That's correct.
What was your expenditures last time?
We've never done this.
You've never done this?
Yeah, no, we've never done this. At least in the 11 years that I've been here, and even then, before that, I don't know that it's ever been done.
What do you anticipate the cost being?
I'm not sure. It's really done on kind of an hourly basis, and so from there, it just really depends on what our work is. So again, it'd be allocating up to that amount. It would just be dependent upon, they work differently based on the team size. Again, a lot of the work and a lot of the plans that they would develop are for our team to go forward and carry out that day-to-day work. But really, again, it just depends on what our needs are.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Solis.
Thank you. With regards to the questions that was brought up with regards to hiring this consultant for to use when there's communication problems with our labor partners, what do we say about that?
That's not the focus that we're intent on. We're intent on, again, kind of the greater communications plan and the greater strategy that we have as a communications both department and then how we move forward as a district. That's not within the scope of our work at all.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Collier,
I'll abstain.
Solis,
Yes.
Segura,
No.
Pike,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 3 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
Okay. H2.
Pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Yes. I had a question, and it deals with the oversight fees that we're charging both the Hawkins and MAC. If I remember correctly, up until this year, we were charging the Hawkins Charter School 3% for oversight, and now in the contract, I noticed that we're charging 1%. Is there any reason for the change in terms of what our oversight fee is being charged?
Dr. Fulcher.
Yes, I'll weigh in and I'll look over at our general counsel to provide any additional response. But we do and have charged an oversight fee. It's not to exceed 1% of the charter school's applicable revenue for the most part. There is one exception, and the exception is a limit of 3% if the charter school obtains substantially, they call it substantially, rent-free facilities from the authorizer, which would be us in this case. And as you know, Hawkins is vacating our premises. MAC does not rent any of our facilities. So that's the reason you see the change in the oversight fee.
Thank you for the clarification, Dr. Fulcher.
Thank you, Dr. Fulcher.
Got a thumbs up
Any
from
other questions or comments?
Ms. Carbuccia.
No? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval of H2.
Second.
Collier,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Let's go to H6.
I have one speaker, Kathleen Cheers.
A few short years ago, I sat and watched while our nurses came and spoke before you, advising you of their need for simple supplies. Now here we are today looking to replace nurses who have historically built relationships of trust with our students, with the students they serve and protect. I am concerned that the physical impact is being left off this agenda item. How are you board members to know what you're voting for? It appears some vague entity will decide on how many nurses we need on any given day and at what sites. Mr. Tarantino's looking strange, so I don't know if I've misinterpreted this or not, but I'll continue. Is every school going to have a nurse? Will nurses be covering several school sites? If so, how many? What is the procedure for requesting a nurse, and whose responsibility is it? Who's going to supply the nurses with the supplies they need? Currently, our sites struggle with meeting these needs of supplies, particularly female needs, and the other needs of the students, general health needs, band-aids, etc. With all due respect, it appears this is yet another cost savings measure, and at the expense of our students, the very same students we were told would not be impacted. I would recommend the board not approve it unless all specifics are answered. And if I've misinterpreted this, maybe the purple shampoo is getting to my brain. Thank you very much.
No further speakers. It was pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Mr. Tarantino.
Yes, I didn't interpret this as a replacement for our nurses, but rather as a way to hire substitutes for nurses who are either out on leave or on ill. And I don't know if my interpretation is correct or if Mrs. Cheers is correct, but I didn't see this as a replacement. I saw it as a way to provide services to schools when nurses our 23 nurses, one of our 23 nurses or a couple of our 23 nurses are not able to attend work. Is that correct?
Dr. Fulcher.
I, first of all, apologize if the item is confusing. And you're absolutely correct. This is to make sure we have coverage when nurses are out ill, either for extended periods or for daily absences. And for the first time in a number of years, each one of our schools is staffed by a RN, and we don't expect that to change anytime soon. But if they need time off, we'll use one of these agencies, as we have in the past, to call in a sub. And you know, Dr. Glover can certainly weigh in on this. It's challenging to find nurse subs in the pools the nurse pools that exist. So we need to rely on some external agencies from time to time and on occasion to make sure we have the coverage needed at the schools.
Thank you. Dr. Glover, would you like to chime in here?
I am hoping that Dr. Fulcher didn't jinx me. It is the first time ever, it seems like in my career here, that we're fully staffed with RNs. Just for the general public, RNs traditionally have a 2-year degree. To be a school nurse, you need a 4-year degree and an RN, so they're a little more challenging to find, but we are completely staffed with RNs. We are looking for LVNs, www.edjoin.org, look under Sweetwater Union High School District, but those are the one level that we are looking for, but Maxim, Rowe, and Accent Healthcare help us provide services when nurses are out on absence or leave.
Thank you very much.
I have a follow-up question. And I don't know if it goes to Dr. Fulcher or Dr. Glover, but I figured out the rate of pay. If we're paying this agency $63 an hour for a nurse to come in and substitute, and I think I don't know what the nurse daily schedule is. Is it 7? I figured it out at 7 hours and 15 minutes. I don't know if that's what they really what their contract says or not. But and that comes to $457 roughly a day. And I was wondering if it would be cheaper to raise the sub pay for retired nurses to kind of entice them to come back. I know that we did that for individuals, teachers who worked in the district who came back and subbed. I don't know if that would kind of sweeten the pot and make them more willing to come back. I don't know if it's about money, if it's about the fact that they put in their time and they want to leave and they're not going to look back or what, but I don't know if that's been considered or if that's something that could be considered.
It can be considered, and we're investigating that as we move along through our process of trying to recruit more nurses, both, like you said, RNs and LVNs. So we're looking to see if we might be able to change our sub rate for nurses and also retired nurses.
Okay, and then on the second part, where it says that we are employing this company for substitutes for special ed teachers, CNAs, behavioral techs, school psychologists. First question is, do we use this agency to substitute for all of these positions, or just some of them, or what?
We use it exclusively for nursing services. We have augmented our sub-psychologist pool, but we don't use them for the other services.
Okay, today. And I noticed that there's no IAs on this list.
Correct.
Is there a reason?
We're working to augment both our sub pool and our hiring pool for instructional assistants locally.
Okay, so that's why we're not contracting with this.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I just have a quick question. On the recital, I'm just curious why it has the first whereas and it has October 25th of 2017. Just curious why that date's that date.
On which attachment?
Am I looking at the right thing? Yes. Oh, on the Maxim agreement. Sure, there's a good reason.
Because this is an amendment to the original agreement from 1718.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved for approval.
Second?
Collier?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Mrs. Cheers?
Sorry about that. It's important to-
K1?
No, she didn't pull K1.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait, what are you doing, Mr. Pike? K1's pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
K1?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Do we, and again, I don't have any problem with this is in regards to the mano a mano parent training. And I was just wondering, do we ever recommend to parents whose students are being suspended or are in constant trouble that perhaps this kind of training is available? I don't know if it's a set start time and a start end time, or if it's rolling enrollment, or if they have different segments in terms of things that they spotlight. But do our APs ever recommend that perhaps, I mean, I know we can't mandate, and I wouldn't want to do that, but to recommend that, there are these workshops that could be beneficial in terms of how to deal with their children.
Dr. Alvarez?
Good evening. So I was not able to ascertain if the APs made direct referrals. I do know that each school site announces it in general to their student body through Jupiter Grades or one of their communication forms to the parents. The different costs are because they run for different sets of times and also service different amounts of participants. But I will find out if these particular school sites are doing so. I would imagine they are, but I don't want to say that without confirmation from them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Collier?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. K2?
Pulled by one speaker, Kathleen Cheers.
Wrong K,
It's
sorry.
It's important to know the ills of the past in order to not repeat them. Please understand, Dr. Salkeld, I mean no respect to you or Dr. Fulcher in speaking on this item. Unfortunately, there is history which precedes it. Mr. Tarantino, Dr. Janney, you, I'm sure, remember of what I speak. History where employees came forward and shared while they were asked for certain donations. In truth, they felt uncomfortable and in many cases were coerced, either outwardly or perceived. Many afraid if they didn't, they would be somehow branded. This issue was part of the grand jury transcript. I just want to caution. I mean, this is an excellent cause. Please don't misinterpret what I'm saying here. But, somebody may write a check, but really they don't really want to write that check. And really they're in the background doing this. So just be very, very careful of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And to those employees that donated, I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
Any questions or comments? I, too, agree with Ms. Cheers. All those people that donated, that's awesome, including Mr. Tarantino. Thank you very much. Mr. Segura.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second?
Collier?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. K3?
K3 is a report.
Dr. Salko.
Good evening, President Pike, Board Trustees, and Superintendent Janney. But I'll be presenting tonight. We'll be briefing the board on the unaudited actuals for the fiscal year 2018-19. I'll also be highlighting some key notable changes regarding the actuals. We'll be going through the general fund total general fund balance as well as the unrestricted and restricted balances. I'll also be highlighting the Governmental Accounting Standard Board requirement. It's known as GASB 68. It's relating to the pensions. And then also highlight other funds and also address next steps and then the final recommendation. So what I'd like to highlight here is what is the unaudited actuals. What this report that you have in terms of your package, it's a standardized account code structure report. It's known as the SACS report. That is a statutory requirement in which the school districts must reconcile their ledgers, or in essence, close the books for the fiscal year of July 1st through June 30th. It looks at all of the revenues and expenditures for the year, and also, the work that the team does in the finance department, working with all the departments and schools, is in accordance with the guidance that we receive from from the Department of Ed, the California Department of Ed, as well as the county office, and also other agencies such as School Services of California regarding the practices and items in closing the books. We also refer quite a bit to our external auditors during the process when we're closing the books to ensure that if they have any feedback along the way. And so in accordance with the Ed Code, those financial results, which we're presenting tonight, must be presented to the board and approved by the board and then submitted to the county office by September 15th. And what we'll highlight here on this particular slide, it's a snapshot of what you have in the SACS report, and this is specific to the unrestricted fund. What I'd like to point out is on column C, these are our final numbers. Through the course of the last year when we've been looking at a budget, we've been looking at projections. That's what column B is reflecting. We put that as a comparative as it relates to estimated actuals. That's what the last time we brought to the board during the budget development in June was as to what we anticipated those actual numbers would be for both revenues and expenditures. So column C is our final result. We've been working very closely on the revenues as an example. We look at final reports that we get from the county office, final reports that we get from CDE once our enrollment is certified with P2, and that's done in June. We also update our financial calculator, known as the LCFF calculator. We've reviewed that with the County Office of Ed, so they've also been engaged through that process. We look at all of our final apportionments that we have for federal revenues, state revenues, and book all of that information and what's known as accruals. Whether it's accrual on the revenue side of things or an accrual on an expenditure side of things, we need to capture any of that financial activity that relates for that particular fiscal year. It's booked. So it's either actual via an accrual. And so as you can see, just high level, we are anticipating about $403 million for our unrestricted. It came in just a little bit slightly higher as $404 million. When we look at our expenditures, you see the salaries, other supplies, and contracted services. We go through that accrual process as well. So as an example, with payroll, we accrue any costs that were picked up in our July payroll and also our August payroll that related to any activity from 18-19. So we make sure that that is booked in the appropriate fiscal year. So that's captured. We also go through a process with our vendor payments to ensure that anything that may have come in from an invoice standpoint after July, that cost is also captured in the month of June for the fiscal year. So there's quite an extensive effort in looking at the revenues and expenditures, but also what's included in the SACS report is the balance sheet. So the balance sheet accounts include cash, accounts receivable. Those are any billings due to the district that might be invoiced via the district. And also accounts payable, any accounts or any obligations that the district owes to outside parties. So we go through all of those accounts, we analyze it, ensure that we have all the supporting schedules because when the auditors will be here later this month, they'll be looking at those balance sheet accounts to ensure that we have all the supporting documentation, and then also look at all this actual activity. They will be sampling transactions, looking at our accruals, making sure those are reasonable, making sure those are accounted for. And also another thing to note as it relates to our vendor accruals, we went through a process with the County Office of Ed at the end of August where we had staff on site reviewing all of our invoices that were paid in the months of July and August to make sure that that was also captured in the month of June for the fiscal year. So we've gone through that extra review process to capture any items that needed to be addressed. And then also what's noted on here are the contributions that the general fund makes to restricted programs such as special ed, and that was about $69 million. So when you have all these ins and outs in terms of the revenues and expenditures, bottom line, we're at $3.7 million, still in the red, but comparing to our estimated actuals, that is a slight improvement of $585,000. So that will carry forward into our budget plan then for 1920, change that opening balance. Okay. And then going on to this next slide here and kind of echoing Dr. Janney's points that she mentioned earlier in her message, I wanted to highlight these points in time as I've shared in prior presentations. When we come to the board at the interims, those are our opportunity to review the budget based on the best information we have available. And so looking at first interim, which was back in December, what you'll see here is about $10.5 million. At that point in time, we had the information from our audit that was completed for 17-18. So that reflected a shortfall of 10.5. Certainly had a lot of work ahead financially to get us on a better financial position. But one thing that the board approved in December, which was instrumental in terms of a strategy, and as Dr. Janney mentioned earlier, was the early retirement program. What you can see subsequent to that December point in time, when we brought forward in March, which was second interim, we adjusted that projection down to $4.9 million because we knew that mid-year retirement, which is not typical of most districts implementing a mid-year retirement, we received quite a bit of interest, and so we knew where we were at, so we made some adjustments of what that balance would look like come June. And then we made a little slight modification at third interim because we had some revenues that were coming in a little bit higher than expected. So that third interim was presented to the board in May. So again, another opportunity to make adjustments to that bottom line. And then estimated actuals is presented to the board in June, another opportunity to look at the information, another snapshot. So that decreased a little bit down as well, down to 4.3. So what I'd like to just highlight is that first interim to unaudited actuals, which is what we're presenting today, is almost $6.7 million. To have that accomplished in 6 months, had that not been implemented via a SERP in December, we would have been ending, the district would have been ending the year with unaudited actuals, probably at the $10 million mark. So I think we still have a long ways to go. $3 million in the red is, we still want to get better. Obviously, we want to put that in a position where we have our economic uncertainties and so forth. But just in a 6-month span, I just wanted to highlight how that is a key financial strategy that is positioning the district going into 1920's budget. And so that couldn't have been done without the implementation of the SERP and the various parties that involved our labor partners, first and foremost, the board, and then also all of our stakeholders, HR, internal departments, HR, labor relations, finance, school principals, directors, to implement all of that, to reach those numbers. So this was definitely a collaborative effort. This next slide is a snapshot in terms of the restricted programs. So I had highlighted unrestricted. Now this is the restricted part of the general fund. Primarily, one of the largest funding sources here, programs, is our special ed. It also has our CTE program and other title money, such as your Title I, Title II, Title III, and so forth, that runs through the restricted. One thing to note here is looking at column C and then our row number 3. That amount of federal revenues, as an example, includes about $6 million of special ed IDEA funding. The state, or sorry, that was number 2, and then number 3 is the state revenues. So the state revenues, $36 million, about $17 million is from the state's AB 602 for special ed. The balance of that funding comes down to row number 17, which is coming from the general fund. So you see $69.7 million, about $58 million of that is from the general fund. So that's primarily what's coming through those programs. And then any balances that we have as carryovers for those restricted programs, such as the title monies, we have a little bit with Title III that'll be carried over into 1920. We also have what's the CSI, the supplemental, I can't remember, the comprehensive support initiative or improvement grant. That'll also carry into next year is about $500,000. So that's reflected in there. And then the contributions, this is just breaking things out a little bit more so than what was noted on that previous slide. Special ed, we were anticipating the original contribution to be about $5.9 million. That came in at $58 million for unaudited actuals. Same thing with the career technical education, that came in a little bit lower than what we anticipated. We had a grant that was expiring, the CTIG grant that was expiring in June, so we maximized as much as we could through that grant. And then our routine restricted maintenance amount was kind of almost in alignment with what we anticipated. This line item is actually going to be going up in 1920 to about $14 million. So this next section on the GASB 68, this is an accounting item that is done every end of the fiscal year. This started back in 2015, where school districts needed to reflect that on the district-wide financial statements. It's in essence the accounting treatment of the on-behalf statements, or on-behalf payments made by the state for CalSTRS and CalPERS. One thing that is unique for this particular year in close was with the governor's commitment and the state legislature's commitment to adding to CalPERS, making that contribution for 18-19. We as a district had to reflect $5.5 million on our financials. It's a book entry. You book it as revenue, then you book it as expense. So it's a net effect of 0 in that regard, but we do have to disclose these amounts. For CalSTRS, about $20.5 million, and then CalPERS about $5.5. What that is also the district's proportional share of the liability at the state through that on behalf. And we've been working very closely with our auditors since August with the passage of SB 90, which is the component with the PERS and with the governor's budget. We've been working very closely with them since August on that. The next few slides are our specific restricted funds, and so I wanted to highlight with the adult ed. This is one fund, along with our cafeteria fund, which is the next one, that has also benefited from the early retirement program. As you can see in column C, the ending balance for adult ed is $2.6 million. Almost a year ago, in October, we had brought forward to the board, not including a $2 million contribution to that program. So as a result of the early retirement program, as well as operational efficiencies that have been put in place, this program's ending the year at 2.6, where we had estimated about 1.6 million back in June. So that is an increase. With the cafeteria fund, same thing. This was a lot of collaboration with our labor partners. They had ideas about menu changes and so forth, and some of the things that we put in place regarding the early retirement program. We had anticipated during the budget development process that we would have, and it's noted on column B, row 5, about $400,000 that would need to be contributed from the general fund to cafeteria fund. That was not required. What you see there is only $46,000. That was a result of the CDE review that we had a few months ago regarding a couple of items. But in terms of the bottom line, this program and this fund was able to be self-sustainable. As you can see on row 16, about $308,000 to the positive. So again, that's another, it's not evidence of continued from the strategy of the early retirement plan. And then deferred maintenance, the next few slides are the capital funds. So Fund 14 here, again, it's just where things ended from the capital programs. Same thing with Fund 21, 25, 35. Fund 40 is also one of the capital funds. What I would want to highlight here is this is now reflecting the Prop 39 energy program that went into effect about 5 years ago or so. We had to encumber anything related to that project through June 30th. There was an agenda item that I know that Dr. Geary brought in June to the board to encumber that project and account for that. We work through the county office in regards to their JPA and the work that we do there. So that is reflected here. You see it on the capital expenditure line items. It's a little bit higher because we had to capitalize or had to encumber those funds. Fund 49, I also want to highlight here because I know there's been quite a bit of activity in some of our prior board meetings regarding the repayment back to this fund. As we've been stating over the course of the last few months, we ended the year with June 30th with a $12 million obligation still to this fund. But as you can see, bottom line, it will end with the fund balance of $162 million. Versus initially our projections of $145 million. So we've certainly rebuilt that fund via that repayment. I know that at some point in time there been different outside entities stating that we would owe, the district would owe about $23 million. We ended the year at 12, again with the commitment to pay that balance over the course of the next year. We've been working very closely with Dr. Geary and his team from the facility standpoint as we look to projects to put in place for 1920 and the subsequent years, particularly now since we do have the county treasury loan so that we no longer rely on this fund for cash flow purposes and we can focus on the projects to improve at different school sites. Okay. And the next item here, it's a very small fund. It has about 13,000 or so. It's our fiduciary fund. This is a result of some scholarship or donations that were made a couple of years ago. The intent is any interest that's earned over $500 or scholarships that are awarded. And as you can see here, the fund balance is $13,000, and the funds that were actual earnings that were earned at the county was $292, so under that threshold. But that continues to help build the fund until we get to that point in excess of 500. So in terms of next steps, our external auditors have already been on site. They were here in April as well as in May. They were visiting our schools, looking at attendance, looking at ASBs. They've been working with our finance team as well for items throughout the year, but they will be on site starting September 30th, looking at our financial statements, looking at the SACS report, looking at all the schedules that I mentioned earlier. There's a list of items that they have requested from our team that we're compiling that now and providing to them. They will be presenting to the audit subcommittee and to the board by December 9th. Again, that's per statutory requirements. So we'll be keeping all parties apprised of that. Along with the financial audit, they'll also be working on the bond program audit, so our Prop O. So they'll be working on that as well, along with our performance audit. In terms of also other next steps is we will be submitting this document, this package that you have, to the county office for their review. Any balances that we have extra, as I mentioned earlier, is about $583,000. That will go towards offsetting some of the solutions we had noted in our budget adoption. And then we will also be bringing forward to the board by October 8th, because of the disapproved budget for 1920, we'll be bringing a revision to the board also in the upcoming weeks. And so in terms of our recommended action, we're requesting that the board approve the SACS report and the supplemental schedules. And those supplemental schedules also include an update to the interfund borrowing. Has the detail, I think it's page 151, that has that information for the various funds, and then also our cash flow statement.
Dr. Janney.
Thank you, Dr. Selkeld. Just want to remind everybody, including our board, that we've already been taking a hard look at not only our systems, but our historical data. And we continue to work with both internal and external partners to, as we progress on this, in this process. And so we just want to make sure everyone's clear about that we have not stopped looking at improving our systems. but that we continue to move forward each time. Each time there's a report given to the board and to the community, we take a step forward. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that.
Okay.
And thank you very much.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Tarantino.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank our fiscal advisor, Mr. Scavarna, for being here tonight and listening to the presentation. Dr. Salkel, I took a kind of cursory count, and I noticed that you referenced the SERP at least 12 times in your presentation. And we received a lot of pushback from both the County Office of Ed and our fiscal advisor. They didn't think that that was the proper way to go. And yet, your assessment is that it's because of the SERP that we were able to not lay off people and yet come up with these final statistics. Do you think that we'll get any kind of recognition from the County Office of Education? Do you think that they'll say, we were wrong, and, or no, they'll just continue to send the correspondence that they've been sending? I know you can't answer that. It was a rhetorical question for the public and for the County Office of Ed. The other thing that I want to ask, and again, I know you can't answer this. This is for the benefit of the County Office of Ed. The correspondence that we've been receiving from Mr. Simonson, in his correspondence to the board and to Dr. Janney, he keeps mentioning the apparent misstatement of funds, the apparent misstatement of balances. He uses that terminology throughout all of his correspondence. Is there any way that he can make those statements based on what you are presenting tonight? Can we expect another apparent misstating of facts, and you're hiding stuff and all of the other stuff that his innuendo throughout his messaging? Can we expect? I guess what I'm saying, how firm are these numbers?
This information is based on all the analysis that the team has done, and we have supporting documentation now. Certainly when we give this to the auditors, they're going to do their scope of work, but we have been spending a lot of time ensuring that our systems and everything is accounted for. So we're confident where the numbers are right now.
But I hear you, but I hear a but saying there's still room for interpretation from Mr. Simonson and his group.
There could be. But we've engaged them through the process, such as like I mentioned earlier with the LCFF calculator, so that they could see the source data, where we got that. So we've engaged them through that process so that it builds that credibility, so it doesn't question that.
We've engaged them all along, and they still question, though. My personal opinion. So, okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Segura.
Just be well, I'd just like to thank you for this report and your team and for all the work you've done to get us to this point. It's been a lot. And, we talked about it. You've been here a year, right? Seems like 10, but it's been a year, right? 20, sorry.
This presentation a year ago was very different. It was my first presentation to the board.
Yeah, I remember our first meeting. But anyways, I appreciate this detailed report and where we're at, and we still have work to do. Mm-hmm. But I totally believe in the numbers that you and the team, and I know how thorough you are. I've learned that, and how you document everything and back up everything. And I just want to thank you and the team for all of that work. Thank you.
Mr. Solis.
I'm not sure if Mr. Simonson wanted to say something.
No. Mr.
Oh, Scavarna, sorry, Mr. Scavarna. I don't know if he wanted to say something. So through the chair, I don't know.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I would like to add. My name is Mark Scavarna. I'm the fiscal advisor from the county office. I do not believe an early retirement incentive was a bad idea. I believe that laying off people is always the worst idea. I believe that the SERP and the early retirement incentive, and I've said this publicly to the superintendent, the legal counsel, and the CBO, could have been configured differently. I believe the cost over the 5 years, a payback on this, is somewhere around $20 to $25 million. I believe it could have been configured differently where you gave a cash bonus to these people, maybe over a time span of 2 years, and you were able to pay for that within 2 years instead of 5 years. I also believe that there's a liability issue with these incentives that were bought through this firm, that if the annuities were to go bad, the district would have liability. That's not discrediting you or the district or anyone else. That's a difference of opinion from someone who listened to you folks and took your leadership team's advice and said, okay, we'll go with this. I was the one and made quite specific that I believe that any early retirement incentive is useless unless you capped it at 5 years, because to repeat it every year, like a lot of districts do, make it useless. I do not discount any of the hard work that this district has done on all of this. Matter of fact, I've been, I would imagine, pretty reasonable with a lot of these various things, and the superintendent failed to make a remark in her presentation, and I'm sure it was just an oversight, that the district does have a county fiscal advisor with stay and rescind authority, even though it's never been utilized. So with all due respect, those would be my comments, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr.
Solis, go ahead.
Okay, and with that, Mr. Scavarna, there was a meeting that right after we had done the SERP. You were in Dr. Jenny's office, and you told me that this is the fastest any district has turned it around. That's what you told me. And
I do not disagree with that.
Okay.
And I understand the issue of the timing and everything else, and that's why the county allowed the district the latitude to make that decision.
So just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
I know, absolutely. I'm not discrediting their work. I'm not discrediting what there's a difference of opinion that I have on that early retirement plan as opposed to another option.
I don't want to quibble over dates, but I will make it very clear that when the board adopted or approved the SERP on December 17th, that was before the county had any stay and rescind authority. Just want to make that clear. We understand that they have stay and rescind authority. However, that did not become effective until December 20th or 21st. So with that said, that's why the board went forward. With or without the county's permission or authority, they did not have it at that point in time. Just want to make that clear for the public.
Which I actually think shows the ability of working with the district, even on that decision where there may have been some disagreement.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns?
Mr. President, so I would
Yes,
just
Mr.
like
Cesar.
to, I'd like to approve the 2018-19 unaudited actual financial report and submit to the STCOE in accordance with Education Code 42100. That's a motion.
I'll second.
Collier?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. M4?
Pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
This is the East Lake drop-off zone. And my question is that the total construction is going to take about 90 days, 89 to be specific. And a couple of questions. When is it going to start? And what kind of notification is going to be given to parents in terms of that there is going to be a construction zone for at least 90 days?
Go ahead, Mr. Doctor.
Thank you, President Pike. Trustee Tarantino, so both of those are excellent questions. So upon approval by the Board of Trustees, we will begin the process of working to initiate this project. Over the fall break is when we will begin the work of aligning of the utilities. So that's the first piece that needs to happen. As you noted, it will be approximately a 3-month project. We have contemplated reaching out and having some community meetings with parents or whatnot. We hadn't gone out until we know for certain that this is approved. Once we do that, we'll have multiple methods of communicating with stakeholders. As you may recall, this project started over a year ago now when we had a meeting with parents and the city, and concerns were brought up in terms of the ability for pickup and drop off to occur, because there have been issues, there continue to be issues. So So it's identified. It takes the collaboration with the city to be able to design it. But once we get through this process, again tonight, once we approve it, if approved, then we will reach out with stakeholders to make sure there's ample opportunity for having questions answered.
One more thing, President
ahead.
Pike. I was out in late August, and I observed the traffic because I had a lot of calls from parents in terms of the traffic and all of that. The traffic, it is bad, and there are a lot of violations by the motorists that are running red lights in front of kids who are crossing crosswalks. But I don't think is that our responsibility, or is that the responsibility of the city of Chula Vista? My opinion is, if the city of Chula Vista wanted to improve their cash flow, they could station a police officer out there and write citations. They would make a bunch of money. But I don't think that's our problem. Am I wrong, or?
I believe it's.
Is it a joint problem?
I believe we're trying to be good partners with the city. I agree with you that this is not. It's not within our purview. Most definitely.
No,
it's not within our purview. But we've heard this concern from both residents and parents. So that's why we've gone down this path. It's not something that's necessarily our jurisdiction, but if we can be good partners, that's where we're making a good faith effort.
Thank you, Dr. Curie.
That's all?
That's all I have.
Any other questions or concerns? Mr. Tarantino, I have to let you know that every school has those problems. When I pick up my grandkids at Hilltop Elementary, everybody parks in the red. They double, triple park. If I had my ticket book, I would have went nuts. Okay.
Can you come off the bench, President Pike?
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Collier?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura? Yes. Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
And 4.
I have one speaker, Kathleen Cheers.
So while many of you may think I'm very intelligent, when it comes to IT and software, you might want to talk to my granddaughter, who's 19 now. She will tell you I'm dumber than dirt. So I would like to respectfully ask President Pike to ask Dr. Aguirre to translate what is in that agenda item regarding what exactly the software does. Thank you very much.
Dr.
No further
Aguirre.
speakers.
Thank you, President Pike. Sure. So for most of our history, we've had a paper-based process for facility requests. And going through and having, we've explored a couple of different options via pilot tests. We've arrived at, we issued an RFP. And we had this company, Facilitron, respond to that particular RFP. So basically what it does is it puts everything that we currently do on paper and puts it into a platform, a digital platform. So for example, there will be pictures taken of our facilities, so APs don't have to take their time to conduct tours for gyms or classrooms or fields. If somebody's interested in that particular facility rental, they can see some of the photographs online. It will give us the ability to have metrics and data, because currently it's a very labor-intensive process. We have to go through and put together Excel sheets, spreadsheets, which of course opens up, you have to be very careful about those. But at the end of the day, what it does is we can do a broader array of analysis to see how our facilities are being used, where is there a greater impact to, for example, the maintenance needs of a particular facility based on how it's being used. So we'll have that in a more user-friendly format. This particular methodology, if you look at, I want to say it's Exhibit A of the company fee options, it's based on the amount of funds that are coming back in. So the fees, how much is actually charged, depends on the amount of transactions. So if you look, it's one of the exhibits, Exhibit A. It actually outlines exactly how this process is going to work. We actually, based on a number of conversations and spot observations, we believe there's a lot of use that we aren't necessarily capturing right now. So this will allow us to have a more user-friendly kind of digital platform to be able to capture more of that facility use. So that's kind of the overall kind of overview. This is a 1-year agreement, and then if we find that for some reason the particular method we have chosen isn't the best, or we can look at some better options, we can kind of change that. In terms of its implementation, once upon approval, we're looking at doing another beta test with about 4 or 5 schools to see if there's any adjustments that are needed prior to full implementation in starting in January. So for the next calendar year. So that's what we're hoping to do this. It's been, it's kind of the next step. There's other steps we are also contemplating. For example, looking at some of the kind of where the fee revenues are, how they're allocated, how they're recovered. But before we do those pieces, we want to make sure we have a strong digital application that can really support the analytics that we're looking for.
Thank you, Dr. Geary. Any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Collier?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, that concludes our meeting. Mrs. Cheers, we can go home.